Okay, welcome back, students, to your lab number 4. This lab's going to be a little bit of a doozy because we're going a little bit out of order. You see, what we're going to do now is we're going to use Lab 3's data set when we calculate the earnings yield, and we want to sort of build a small trading strategy using Lab 3 solutions. Now, on the slide it says I am Lab 4 code.r is going to be the code for the Blackboard. I think I've named it, I'm going to name it I am Lab 4. It's basically the code that I'm going to be doing right now along with you guys in this video. And so, like I said before, we're going a little bit out of order because ideally what happens is once we calculate the earnings yield from Lab 3, right, and we enhance the data a little bit like we're going to do right now, we're going to add um, a quote-unquote sell price like we did before in Lab 2 to calculate returns for certain strategies. Technically what we should be doing, we should be doing a little bit of the data exploration, right? This falls under data science. We should be doing a little exploratory analysis, uh, looking through the data visually using a graphing package called ggplot, which I'll show you guys a little bit later. And we should basically get a feel for the data and the earnings yield and the returns and the prices, right? I'm going a little bit out of order only because I want to basically just work through the strategies first. Show you, I mean, obviously you're going to see the strategy doesn't work to some degree. You're going to see some weird results coming out of it, and we'll talk about that. And then we'll go back and we'll look at the data. We'll enhance it a little bit more, and then we'll look at the data because it's actually a little bit more advanced when we actually export the data. So this is why I want to do this part first and then go back and view this data set that we create visually and try to get a more of a feel for earnings yield and what's going on relative to the returns and whatnot, if we can see anything at all, if you could see anything at all, right? So, I mean, the first step here is, again, is we want to basically, and what we should have done is we should actually have saved our data set from uh, from Lab 3, and actually I'll show you that right now how to do that, but let's go ahead and rerun the code from Lab 3. In fact, the first part of Lab 4 is solution is going to be our Lab 3 solution. So let's go ahead and get that data going. All right, so here's my blank slate. I'm going to go ahead and call this new R script file. This should be second nature to you guys now. And I'll call this I am Lab 4, just so you guys have it. In your code. All right, let me load up my data set. All right, you guys remember how to do it. Do open file, grab your data set wherever it is. Should be more organized where I store my data, but I'll go with it for now. Make sure I'll name it data, and let me load in my price DF file as well. Open file, here we go. Price DF, perfect, fine, excellent. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to load in our lab from last week. I'm going to take only the components that I really need. There's a lot on it, so just to clean it up for you guys, I'm going to go ahead and grab it for you. And here it is, excellent, all right. So I'm going to go real quick because you guys have seen this before. Take this, excellent. All right. Taking some of the columns, changing the names of the columns, converting it to a data table. All right. And now scroll down, down here, or here. Okay, I think we're missing a shift part somewhere here. Yep, here you go. The order, the shift, the y average. I need this. All right. And now I need my prices. Oh, this part, right. Cut down the dates of my DF. Again, if this is it's not ringing a bell, go ahead. You have the video for lab 3. Go ahead and check it out again. And now I'm going to go ahead and grab my, I already have my price. I'm going to convert it to a data table, format another column called period. Do the same thing for the DF2 table, combine, not combine, but do the VLOOKUP for the prices. Oh, just grab all this. Grab my total debt and my earnings yield. Done and done. All right, here we go. All right, and we click on DF2. We have all this going on, which is fantastic, which is great. All right. All right, we can, we could even cut this table down if we wanted to, but we'll do that later on in the slides anyway. All right, so I got this. And now I have my DF2 table right here. All right, and now I'm ready to go to my lab 4. All right, my lab 4 strategy. So let me save this, and literally, let me say, this is lab number 3 solution above. All right, that's basically it, guys. Now, I said, this is not in my slides, but I said I'll show you guys how to save this table if you wanted to. So if you wanted to save DF2 for, instead of rerunning the code, right, I could literally do, let me write this part, comment this part out too here. If we want to save DF2, and this is basically creating an RDS file of DF2. Right, this is when you take the data container DF2 and you actually save it on hard drive. So if you wanted to do this, first things first, remember to change the directory. Now this I do have in my slides from lab 3. My lab 3 slides, I do have this. Even though I show you an easier way to load in the data, I show you how to change the folder that your directory is pointing to. So if you go to session up here, set working directory over here, and click on choose directory, okay? You can basically point to which directory you want to point to. So here, I believe I am in investment modeling. Yep, perfect. Spring 2020, that's you guys. I click on it, and that's it. I'm not clicking on a file. I'm just clicking on the folder, and I do open. Done. All right? Now, you really don't see anything except for down here. It basically tells you in the console right here that, hey, you set the working directory to this particular folder. All right, fantastic. Now, from here, right, let's just end over here. If I wanted to save, remember the pound is the comment. So if I just wanted to save DF2 for future use, so I don't have to run the codes from line 16 and above ever again, right? All I have to do is literally DF2 dot, oh, sorry, not dot, we do save RDS the name of the object first, and then whatever you want to save the file name as. You can save the file name anything you want. It could be the same thing as DF2 if you wanted to, or you can name it something else. Just please remember, the extension must be RDS. That is how R knows that, hey, this is a saved data container in hard drive. So I go ahead and click this, right? And remember where I pointed my folder? I pointed to my Spring 2020 folder under investment in our folder, right? So if I go there, right here, if I click on documents, investment in R, spring 2020. Look what you see right there. See that? Sorry, let me highlight that right there. df2.rds right there. R, what kind is it? R data file. Right, boom. Ladies and gentlemen, that is a data container you just saved on your hard drive. So that's a little bit of a trick if you guys just wanted to know for next time. So anyway, whatever, we have our df2, and we are now ready to talk about the lab we want to do. And here it gets a little confusing. Now, we want to run 8 different strategies, 4 of them, which are, I mean, it's basically 4 different strategies, but I say 8 different strategies because in the first 4 strategies, we're picking just one stock. And in the last 4 strategies, we're doing basically the same strategies as the first four strategies, except we're picking 10 stocks at a time. Now, again, this is just like what we did in Lab 2. In Lab 2, remember, we ran the compound returns. We did the hypothetical scenario again where instead of paying Rutgers for your college tuition, you took that money and you bought a stock in the stock market. We ran it for SP 500, the SPY, which, by the way, in the actual markets took hammering. It went slightly up. A lot of things going on there, right? And we also ran it for individual stocks. Like we also ran it for Tesla and saw the ridiculous returns Tesla had. By the way, also Tesla went down, is bouncing back up stronger than ever before. Yes, I'm depressed I didn't buy at 351. That's a story for another day. Okay? But this time, we are going to do the same thing again. We're going to pick a stock. In fact, the first 4 strategies, we're picking one stock. For those 3, this time 3 periods of time, not 4. We're limited by the data. I apologize. Haven't got the new data yet. So we're limited by the beginning of September. We're doing the data for beginning of September 2015, beginning of September 2016, and beginning of September 2017. We're going to be picking stocks based on the EYs, right? It's 4 different strategies. The first strategy is very easy. The stock with the highest, for each period, the stock with the highest EY ratio, we're going to buy. It's that simple, okay? The second strategy is, so the first one's easy. That's clear, not a problem. The second strategy is basically we're going to pick the stock with the lowest positive EY ratio, okay? So the lowest positive EY ratio. So nothing below 0, but whatever is the lowest EY ratio that's still positive. That's the second ratio. That's the second strategy. Perfect. Okay. Now in 3 and 4, it gets a little, because of the wording, it gets a little confusing, but I'll explain it. In the third one, we're not going to pick the stock with the lowest negative EY ratio, okay? With the lowest negative EY ratio. Now, what do I mean by the lowest negative EY ratio, okay? What I mean by the lowest negative EY ratio, I'm basically saying, hey, I apologize to my mathematicians in the class, but I basically want the negative number, right? The negative number that is, I think I should probably say this better, but anyway, the third strategy is I want the negative number that is close to 0. That's the best way to say it, okay? For the third strategy, I want to pick the stock that has the negative EY ratio that is closest to 0. So therefore, I want the, how we say, the biggest negative number, the biggest negative number. Remember that, you know how negative 2 is larger than negative 5, right? Negative 2 is larger than negative 5. Negative 5 is less than negative 2. I want the largest negative number. So, I mean, so basically my syntax there is totally wrong. So, but that's what I want for step 3. So I apologize for that. And obviously in the fourth strategy, when I say highest negative EY ratio, what I'm really saying is I want the negative EY ratio that is furthest from 0, right? So the smallest negative, smallest negative number for EY ratio, okay? So again, I apologize for 3 and 4. So that's basically the 4 strategies we want to test. We're picking one stock each. Now, for strategies 5, 6, 7, and 8, it's the same thing as 1, 2, 3, and 4. Same scenario again, except I'm picking 10 stocks equally weighted. We're actually building a portfolio here now. Instead of picking just one stock, we are going to take our money and divvy it up equally among 10 stocks for each ratio. And all in all, we're going to end up testing 8 ratios now. right? For the slab, pardon me, we're going to be testing eight ratios at this point. All right, so let's get started. Now, for various reasons, we're going to have missing data, okay? In fact, many of the tickers that we couldn't calculate the EY values, right? And we can basically filter out for them. And the way we're basically going to do it is we're going to just, anywhere where there's an EY, there's a couple different ways we can do it. Anywhere where there's EY, we can say, hey, I want to, wherever there's the EY value does not have a value, I want to get rid of it. Now, we can use the is.na function, but I'm going to show you how that doesn't necessarily always work. So there's another function we're also going to use in conjunction with it. All right. Give me a second here. So here we go. Sorry. Okay, so how does this work basically? In is.na basically is going to look for any value in the EY column that is an A, right? So if I were to run that piece of code right here, just do a quick sanity check. EY, right? And select the columns we're typically going to take, which is ticker, EY, price, and date. All right, so you can see I have 2,304 rows where my NA, my EY value was NA, right? You click on here, you can view them, what's going on, why is that the case? It's because we didn't have a price for it. Why didn't we have a price for it? Because those tickers probably don't exist anymore. Why don't they exist anymore? They could have went bankrupt, or they could have been bought out or merged with another company, right? Or maybe it's a technical error from Yahoo, but I mean, there's several different reasons, and this goes to data exploration and data wrangling, right? Maybe this matters to us in our analysis, maybe it doesn't, but I mean, this is one way to basically see what the outliers are, and this is actually an important step of data science or quantitative investing, is to see, okay, which data am I missing? I'm short of which stocks or which particular information am I short on? I don't have the information for, and maybe it matters. All right, or but maybe it makes perfect sense. But that's something nevertheless we should reconcile if it's something that is important to us. All right. So again, this is basically a summary of how do we slice and dice our different tables. Right. Now, the syntax here, by the way, here, ignore the syntax here for now, guys. This syntax is the old syntax right here. The way I did it, the way I checked it before right here, I actually should replace this. But this is the old syntax. The syntax that I have from the previous slide and the one I have in my lab, that's the right one we want to use. But instead, all right, but again, moving right along, what if that wasn't the, what if that isn't the only mistake in the EYs, right? What if that's not the only mistake in the EYs? Again, how am I going to go ahead and get the right data? I should have a slide on it, but oh, perfect. I have a slide on it right here. Okay. Here, if you notice in line 2, we'll get to the other stuff in a second. I'm using is.finite. What does is.finite do? So here in my code, I created a small table called dfno. I use is.na. That basically says, hey, wherever there's not a is, wherever there's an NA, select that row. So logically, if I wanted to take a subset of df2, right, I could do explanation point I could do an exclamation point like this before the is.na. I could say, hey, give me wherever the EY values is not an NA, right? But something in our scenario that which is slightly better is using the is.finite, okay? And the reason why I would want to use the is.finite is because is.finite allows me to grab data where the EY is a number. Because yes, we want to get rid of the NAs, but what about the infinities? What about the scenarios where we divided a number by a zero, right? That's an error. You're going to get infinity. Or a zero divided by a zero, right? Those won't give you results that are NA. You'll actually see INF, capital INF, in your data set, or negative capital INF in your data set. And NA won't catch that, but is.finite will catch that. So if we use is.finite, we're only going to select the rows where EY actually has a numeric value, and everything else is gone. So it's superior, right? So we're going to use that to filter our stuff. Now, before we get started, over here you saw there's a DF3 that I'm going to order. Let's take one more step before that. And I'm going to go ahead and filter. All right, I'm going to go ahead and take DF2 and say, hey, give me all the rows where EY is a number, and just give me the ticker EY price and data column. So now I have the DF3 table done. All right. Now I'm going to get started with creating subsets for my different strategies. All right, subsets for my different strategies. Now, what I want to do is I want to show you, before we even get into this, before I even get into the subsetting over here, I want to do the first strategy first, right? And I want to do it for one stock before I do jump into the slides, just to warm you guys up and so you guys get a feel for what's going on here. So the first thing I want to do is, and this is in the slide right here in line 1, I just want to make sure everything is in proper order, right? Because again, my strategies are based on what? The highest EY, the lowest positive EY, the negative number that is closest to 0, the negative EY that's closest to 0, and the negative number that's furthest from 0, right? 4 data points around EY that is dependent on the order of EY, right? So I'm going to put EY, I'm going to put my table all in order. And I'm going to put it in order according to, I'm going to put it in order according to not ticker, but I'm going to put it in date order, okay? Because I want to put it in date order, and I want to put it in EY order. Now, why date order? I'm putting in date order because remember, my data set has what? If you guys remember from last lab, it's 3 dates we have it for. We created this EY, and I did this so it's easier for you guys to visualize this. Let me click on DF3 right here. Right, see this? Here's a ticker A. I have the EYs for ticker A. I have the prices that we use to get the earnings yield. Right, and I have the dates. Right now, the dates here are kind of wrong. The dates are saying 2015-06, 2016-06, 2017-06. These dates correspond to our fundamental data. In reality, maybe I should grab the different column, but in reality, these are the right years, but these are the prices as of the beginning of month of September, if you remember from the previous lab. September 2015, September 2016, September 2017. So there's 3 points in time I have these dates for, okay? 3 points in time I have these dates for. All right, so given that, when I'm doing this strategy, remember, I want to buy these stocks according to these strategies in each period of time. So when I say I want the highest EY, I want the highest EY for all 3 periods, because this is a 3-year strategy I'm doing. Every year I'm buying the stock that has the highest EY. All right, so each year I'll be buying possibly a different stock. And in my sell date, in this example will be the end of 2018, end of May. That'll be our sell date. End of 2000. Again, the hypothetical graduation date, if you want. 2018, end of May, and you'll see that in the code. All right, so given this, I need to execute my strategies in such a way that it's exclusive from date to date to date to date, right? From date to date to date to date. And already, if you don't see it in the code, in the slide right in front of you, hopefully you're remembering this, that these commands are going to be happening by a subset according to date. So we're going to be using that third section, the grouping part, by date, okay? By date. All right, so let's go ahead and order this correctly. Again, so I'm going to say order by date. And again, notice my date is lowercase because from lab 3, I made the conscious decision to, oh, you know what, use the lowercase date. So be consistent with your variables, and my slides don't get confused. Just work with your data the way it is. So first things first, I want all these earnings yield ratios and these tickers, I mean, all my data to be basically ordered by date number 1. And then within each date, because remember, within each date, within each period, 2015, 16, and 17, this is the first strategy I'm working on, by the way, guys. Picking just one ticker. I'm just showing this end to end so you guys get into the right mindset before we knock everything out. Okay? So here, I'm going to do date, and I'm going to take it for the EY now. But remember, I want the EY in what order? I want it in descending order. I want the highest one first. Boom. Okay? Now DF3, if I click on it, at least for 2015-06, look at that earnings yield. That is a monster earnings yield, by the way, 206. There's something clearly wrong there, but we'll go with it, right? For whatever reason, that makes no sense, but we'll go with it, all right? So I have right here, I have my, right off the bat, guys, right off the bat, the first year, for the year 2015, this is the ticker I'll be buying. That's the ticker I'm going to be buying for year 2015. I'm doing the first strategy right in front of you, right? And then if we go down to, let's slice it over here so you guys can see. So I know which ticker I'm buying for my first year. Let's see my second year which ticker I'm buying. For second year, I'm buying the ticker date equals to. I really should have took the year instead of the date. The date column would have made my life easier, but whatever. 2016, I believe it's 06. All right. And look, what do we see right here? What is the first ticker there with the highest earnings yield? CYCC. Guys, that's the ticker I'm going to buy in my second year of the strategy. And in my third year of the strategy, I'm buying this ticker right here, AMRS. All right, there you go. It's that simple. All right, it's that simple. How do we automate this though, right? First things first, I'm buying these 3 particular tickers, okay? Now, if I buy these particular tickers, okay, I know which tickers I'm buying. I need their price. So I have the price that I bought them at, right, at that period in time. Remember, this date is misleading. This is actually the date for, the date of this price is actually the beginning of 2017 of September, the right time when we're going to purchase. So that's the price, all right, when I bought these, anyway, I'm going to buy this particular ticker at. Okay, but the question here I have for you guys is, okay, what do I need now? I have now not one ticker, but I have 3 unique tickers for this particular strategy. 3 unique tickers for this particular strategy. I need their prices. I need the prices for those 3 tickers, right? So let me go ahead and get it. So first things first, all right, first things first, let me go ahead and do a little trick to get the tickers that I'm going to buy. All right, do a little trick to get the tickers that I'm going to buy. Ticker equals df3, all the rows, right? And watch what I do here. Head, and we have a function name, ticker. All right, head, ticker. If I just run this, actually, I'm not going to run this part yet, the equals part, just so you guys get comfortable with this. Right, what do I get? I get the first 6 tickers. Now, what does head do? Head does the same thing that first does, but by default, it's 6. So let me go ahead and do 1. Okay, it gives me elbow. What is it saying basically? So the first, in the df3 table, the first row of the ticker column is the ticker elbow, which is fine. We know that we want to buy elbow for the first year, but I want the first ticker for each year. Basically, I want to basically create 3 subsets, one for each year in my data set, and get the first row of the ticker column in each subset. Boom, I use subset. You know where there's a buy here. So buy equals date. Now look what I've done. Now look what I've done. I now have the first ticker in 2015, the first one in 2016, the first one in 2017. And I know I just showed you before in line 28, 29, and 28, right, that they have the highest earnings yield. Why? Because in line 26, I set the order up like that. Okay? So here, now, I'm going to create this into a table. Right? I'll create this into a simple table. Let's call it E1 for example 1. How about that? Just keep it simple. Okay? And now E1 is this table, guys. All right. Now, I said that, hey, I need those prices. I need the prices for the sell price for ALBO, CYCC, and AMRS to get the return, right? To get the return so we can calculate the compound return. And then this will turn into lab 2. This is basically turning into lab 2. All right? So I need to get the price of each one of these tickers as of the date, the last trading day of May of 2018 for each one of them. How do I do this? How am I going to do this now, guys? I'm going to use a quant mod trick. Okay? I'm going to use a quant mod trick for you guys. All right. So I got this right here. I got my E1 data. Again, if I type in E1 right here, we know we have that table. All right, fantastic. Now from here, guys, from here, what I want is I need to get, again, those current prices. How am I going to do it? Well, we're going to call quant mod. If you haven't done it right now, let's do it. Right, and now from here, what I want, guys, is I want to go ahead and call quant mod on those 3 tickers. All right. So I'm going to, now you can go ahead and call quant mod individually for each one of those tickers. You know which ones they are, and you can get the price of the period I want. I'm now going to show you how to automate quant mod a little bit, okay? And because we're going to do this in the lab, because here we only have 3 tickers, but for the purposes of our lab, we're probably going to have around 60, probably a little bit less. I'll call that down a little bit. Because you want to be very strategic when you do this, because when Yahoo Finance or Yahoo in general sees you generating a lot of data like this, they're eventually going to cut you off for a few hours. They know. Okay, so usually when I run, like later on in the semester, or I think our next lab, or maybe the lab after our next lab, you're going to see that I'm going to give you a massive file of all the latest prices. Okay, that I literally run from my office. I'm connected at Rutgers, connected right to the wire, not even a Wi-Fi. It takes me like 40 minutes to run, and I get one shot. If I try doing it twice, Yahoo Finance will catch me and just shut me off, shut off my data feed. So, but I mean, that code I'll give to you guys too, and you guys can mess around with it and run it on your own if you want. So here I'm going to show you a little precursor to how do we get this done. We're going to run a for loop, guys. All right, first, we're going to run a for loop, and we're going to basically, in that for loop, we're going to call each ticker, call quant model on that ticker, get the price range we want, and call it a day. All right, it's that simple. So I'm going to create an empty vector here called price. You guys should be pros at this. I hammered you guys on this in the practice sets, right? And now I'm going to create a for loop. I'm going to iterate through E1's V1 vector, right? Because we can see here, V1 is what? That's the column with the tickers, all right? And you guys know why it's V1. Whenever there's a grouping, boom, R makes up its own column name. Again, check practice set 3, I believe, to refresh yourself. All right, so here, now what am I going to do? I'm going to call get symbols, right? I. Now, first things first. Notice what I'm putting during get symbols. It's I. Why? Because in line 35, the variable I is going to iterate through the vector, which is V1, E1, the V1 of E1, right? The V1 column of the E1 table is a column, which is basically like a vector in data tables, right? So it's going to iterate through those values. In the first loop, I will be albo. Second loop will CYCC. Third loop will be AMRS, all right? Now, we're not done. Here, this we want get whatever comes back from get symbols, because now we're automating this. We're going to create our own variable for this that we can manipulate, st. And when we have our own variable, what do we need? Again, I hammered you guys on this too. Auto assign equals f, capital, false. All right. But before that, again, remember, we want to be very sparing with how we call the data in these cases when we're doing these bulk uploads. We know we just want what? We want the end of May. End of May, right? So I'm going to limit the data I get. I'm going to use my from and to. So I want from 2018 05. I mean, I could say 01, but we can go ahead and get this down even more and say, I don't know, the 25th. I think that's pretty fair. I'm not even looking at the calendar, so I'm just assuming from the 25th to 31st there was some trading days, right? We just want the last trading day of May, and we obviously want 2018 May dash 05 dash 31. All right, here we go. That is going to go ahead and give us a very small, we're calling a very small table from QuantMod. I guess a few days, looks like 6 days. I'm banking on the fact that obviously we have some trading days between the 25th and 31st. We have to have at least one, all right? And whatever the last one is, we're taking it. If it's the 31st, fantastic. If it's the 30th, we'll take it, all right? So ST now becomes my QuantMod table, XDS table. From here, I want to extract out that last price. How do we do it? Again, I hammer the hell out of you guys on this stuff too. ST is my table. I want the I'll take the 6th column, all the rows, 6th column, but I would just want the last row of so this is gonna give me all the adjust to close prices, but I just want the last one. Done. And because it's an XTS table, I want to make sure that that value coming back at me is a simple vector. So I'll use the ags.vector function. All right. So now in P will be the last price in the month of May, just the close price, and it'll be in the value will be P. That's a simple vector. Now, if we go to line 34, why did I create line 34? Because I want P will be overwritten for every loop. For albo will be overwritten, for CYC, C will be overwritten, AMRS will be overwritten. Once I get the P, I want to save it. How do I save it? I'm going to concatenate it into my price vector in line 34. How do I concatenate it? I use a C function. And again, I believe I gave you a problem like this in the practice set, right? So what's happening here? Price in the first loop, price is empty. The price vector is empty, but P has a number, so that concatenates into a new vector price that has one value. And the second vector loop is going to have 2 values, and the third loop will have 3 values. So I go ahead, make sure I ran that, and I'm going to run this for loop now. And it looks like I get some warning messages, incomplete final line, incomplete final line. So there's some incomplete final lines. So maybe I didn't give enough data, enough space. So let me change this to the 20th. Let's see how this works now. Let me make this empty again. Oh, that looks like it ran. Okay, so I got a little arrogant. I don't think I give enough data, enough space with the data. But anyway, if I click down here with the price now, we have prices now. We have prices. Now, where did these we have a vector of prices, the ones we just chose, and these will be the last ones for this period. Now, how do I make sense of which ticker this price is for? I'm going to directly take it and add it into that E1 table. I'm going to literally create a new table called E1. Not even a new table, sorry, a new column. And I'm going to call this column, we'll call it the sell price if you want. And it'll have the vector price. I run this, click on E1, boom. All right, I just have my sell price now. And now I'm ready to rock, guys. Now I'm ready to rock. First thing I'm ready to do is I'm going to get using my E1, get my returns. All right, and now this falls into, this becomes what? This turns into lab 2. Right, essentially this turns into now lab 2, guys. All right, so first things first, let me go ahead and get my return. Okay, so what's the next step, guys? We want to create return. This is our, falls into our lab 2 example. So how do we get return, guys? What's the, let me write down here. Here's the E1 table. What's the formula for return, guys? Simple return. It's, that's right. It's going to be your sell price divided by your purchase price. Oh. I jumped the gun a little bit here. Remember, my information is in what? It's in the DF3 table. Right, the DF3 table. All right. So, we could do it either or. We can take, what I'm doing is I'm missing the, I'm missing my purchase price. So I can do either or. I can go ahead and grab the purchase price from the DF3 table, and that's fine. And that's perfectly fine. I'm allowed to do that because you can go from a big table to a small table. That's not a problem. So let me do that first. Let me do the join before we do our return. So I'm going to do E1, DF3, okay? E1 is where I'm creating the new column. So that new column, I'm going to call it buy price, colon equals. But remember, I have to use in DF3, that's the table I'm grabbing the price from, so that I have to use the column name, that is price, okay? And now here, the second parameter, this is the weird one, on equals C function. Now, how do I want to link this up? Okay, E1, let me type E1 down here so you can have that frame of reference as well. Okay, E1, it has a column called V1, DF3 has a ticker. All right, so E1 is the one where we're grabbing the data in, so that goes first. So V1 has to equal, in quotes, ticker. And remember, that the second column right here that corresponds to DF3 that we're linking up with E1, that one is always in quotes. I don't know why, it's just a strange thing. Okay, now that's not good enough. I also have to link up the dates. All right, the dates. Now, I don't really have a date here. Oh, I do have a date. So perfect. So I'll just link up the date here with the date here, and that's the same name and everything, so that's going to work out perfectly. Right? Close this up. Run this. And now when I type in E1, guys, I have a buy price, and we confirm that if I do DF3, right? DF3, there's Albo, there's its price, there it is. I linked it up. Boom. All right. Now, Now I'm ready to get my return. Okay, where were we before we were interrupted? Return is what? It is sell price divided by buy price minus 1. Okay, I do this. I now got my returns. All right, and hopefully you guys look at those returns. Hopefully now you guys remember how we did lab 2. From here, hypothetically, each one of these years, my hypothetical students spent $11,000 on their tuition money. All right. Again, your examples will be different, but for the first time around, make sure you run my numbers to make sure the code is correct. And my code is correct too. I don't have a typo either. And then I want you to go back after we're done with this lab. On your own, I want you guys to go back and put your actual numbers in. And again, tell me if you guys beat these numbers or not. Same scenario goes again. Right? Same scenario goes again. Even though we're all picking the same stocks at this point. So this is going to be what? What I need to do now is I'm going to use some funky vector mathematics here. I want to multiply 11,000 by each one of these returns. 11,000 times 1 plus this, 11,000 1 plus this, 11,000 1 plus that. And I want to sum up those numbers. How, pray tell, am I going to do this? I'm going to use vector mathematics. All right, so first off, I need the returns. E1 dollar return. Boom, I got a vector of numbers. Nice. Okay, and these are returns. These are returns, remember. So I want to add 1 to each one of these returns. I'm going to do this step by step right in front of you guys. 1 plus this. Boom. Notice I added 1 to each one of these. This is 1 plus a negative, so this is why it's 0.24, right? And now to each one of these 1 plus returns, I'm going to multiply 11,000. Boom. So at the end of the 3 years, this is what my 11,000 became. At the end of my 2 years, this is my 11,000 became. Oh boy, that is horrendous. And at the end of my 1 year, this is my 11,000 came. Wow, that's fantastic. All right, that's fantastic. My 1 school year, because I invested this 2015, 2016, 2017. All of these are being sold on the end of May of 2018. All right, so now what am I going to do? I'm going to sum up those numbers. Copy this down here, pass in those values into my sum function. Guys, I'm doing vector mathematics from line 43 all the way down to 46. Right? No for loops necessary. And my total final value of my investment became $41,143.42. Right? So my final value became whatever this summed up to. All right? Now, what is my compound return formula? My compound formula would be equivalent 11,000. Again, we have like 2 practice sets on this, so hopefully you guys are. This is sort of, you guys are getting to the rhythm of this. We'll do 1 plus r raised to the power of 3 plus 11,000. Copy and paste. All right. And so that's my compound return. I'm going to go ahead and solve for r such that this formula will equal FV. And obviously, what am I going to use to do that, guys? I'm going to use uniroot. So I'm going to have to make this into a function. I'm going to make this into a function. I'll call this function lab4. My parameter. Now remember, some of you guys got this part wrong on your exam. Make sure whatever variable you're using in here matches up with that parameter. Take that. All right. t equals this. And what am I missing here, guys? How does uniroot work? It solves for 0. So what am I missing? That's correct. Minus fv. All right. And what else am I missing? The return. Excellent. So now I have my function. Process that, and now down here you see we have the R function. All right, cool. Now we're ready to use uniroot, guys. I'm going to go ahead and use uniroot. Stick in my first parameter, which is my lab4 function. Stick in my second parameter, which is my lower bound. Lower bound, let's say, was 0% compound return. And stick in my upper bound, which I'll say is 80% return. All right. I go ahead, I run this, come up here, and what do I have? Oh, wow, okay. I have an 11% compound return. All right, that's nice. That's nice, that's nice. Much better than my slides result, but all right, okay. Now, that was for the first strategy. We calculated the compound return for the first strategy. Now what we want to do is, we want to go ahead and calculate the rest of the strategies, but we want to be more strategic about it because what we want to do is we want to basically get a set of all the tickers that we're going to run through Yahoo Finance getting their sell value. Okay, we want to do this so that we don't get maxed out. We don't get maxed out. So we're going to be more strategic now and go through the slides. And hopefully now, if you keep this in mind, if you understand this part right here, everything we did up until line 55, then you understand pretty much 90% of the lab at this point. And everything else was just click in. All the other strategies will just click in, and it's basically the same thing over and over again. All right, so let's go ahead and knock out the rest of the lab now. Let's do it. Okay, boom, save this. Let's start. Now, what's happening here? We already took the order. We have the DF3 table. It's already ordered. Excellent. Now, I'm creating another table called DF4. Again, I didn't really need to do this, but this is the way I did in the slide, so let's just go with it, right? So I create another table DF4, and in my table DF4, what I'm doing is I'm saying, listen, give me all the finite for EYs. I already did that all the way up here in line 25. In line 25, I already took the EY values that are all already finite, so I really don't need to do that again, but you can go ahead and do it. It's no problem. All right? So, but this time what I do is I say, listen, give me now the head ticker. Last time we did, when we were doing it for first strategy, I said give me 1. Now I say give me 15. Why do I say give me 15? The reason is maybe there's a ticker that's missing prices, right? So I don't want to have to deal with that. Okay? So because of that, I say, listen, you know what? The strategy, I have if we go back up here, right? Even though we want the 10, we want the first 4 strategies are just 1 stock, but the last 4 strategies are going to be 10 stocks. So the reason why I'm just checking 15 is just in case there's some tickers missing. But in all honesty, I don't think I need 15. I think I'm fine with 12 or whatever, but I mean, we'll take 15. It's not a problem. 60 shouldn't break Yahoo. We should be okay with 60. All right. So I'm going to create a table called DF4. That's going to be the same thing I did basically here. I called the E1 for example 1. But now instead of just taking 1, I'm taking 15. All right. And now DF4 has the data sets for the values for my first strategy. Now notice I have 45 rows. Why do I have 45 rows, guys? Because I'm taking the top 15 for each date. I have 3 dates. So therefore, I'm taking the top 15 rows for each date. The by date created 3 subtables. This head part right here is going to take the first 15 rows in each subtable, which gives me 45 rows. All right, done. That's why DF4 is going to be 45. In fact, all these subtables, DF4, DF5, DF6, and DF7 will be 15, 15, 15. Will be, I'm sorry, 45, 45, 45, 45. All right. So It's actually gonna come out to whew, about 120, about 180 securities we're gonna get, and hopefully it'll work out. We're not gonna break it. It won't break it. It won't break Yahoo. But because we're not all doing it in the same class, in the class at the same time, Yahoo can't catch us. So maybe we're gonna be okay then. All right. So the second strategy now is what? The second strategy is give me the smallest EY values, or the smallest EY value that's greater than 0. Now I'm adding an additional condition here. I'm saying, hey, make sure EY is greater than 0. And I say this because now instead of using the head function, I'm using the tail function. You see, the by is still there, by equals date. That's going to be there for all of them. That is going to separate my data set into by subtables, the date subtables. In each subtable now, I'm not calling the head function for the second strategy. I'm calling the tail function. I'm saying give me the 15 lowest tickers, right? Now again, remember, the table is already sorted by EY in descending order. So give me the lowest tickers, right? The lowest tickers by 15, and the lowest 15 tickers, sorry. But make sure the EYs are 0. And this will now give me well, I mean, for my second strategy, I actually want the lowest ticker. But basically, this is finding me the tickers that are the smallest positive EY tickers. Smallest positive EY tickers. Okay? Smallest positive EY tickers. So here now, so again, everything's the same as I did in my example. I'm just cranking it up everything by, instead of 1 ticker, 15 tickers, guys. Right? So now DF5, DF3, now we have our filter right here. EY must be greater than 0. Okay, we already know it's finite because I took care of that before when I created DF3. And now instead of head, I'm doing tail. Let's run this. Let's click on DF5. And again, DF5 is, notice by the way, the V1 column and only 2 columns we have there. But now we have these values, 45. All right. All right, now let's knock out our third strategy. The third strategy was what? The third strategy again was, I'm saying, hey, give me the negative EYs that are closest, the 15 negative EYs that are closest to 0. The negative 15 EYs that are closest to 0. And again, some of you guys are wondering, the first 4 strategies are just 1 ticker each. Why am I taking 15? It is because I'm setting up the data so I can do both my first 4 sets and my last 4 sets. And I'm taking 15 in case there's prices missing for those last 10 ones, okay? So here, my third strategy is basically the EY that is negative but closest to 0. That'll be DF6. So negative EYs, but the ones that are closest to the head, so the ones that are closest to 0. So basically, the negatives that are greater than the lesser negatives. Again, the negatives that are closer to 0. That's the best way to understand it. DF6. And finally, I'll do my DF7, and my DF7 is going to be the negatives that are the furthest away from 0. So these are the EYs that are the worst of the worst. And again, why the heck would you have a negative EY earnings yield? Why would you have a negative earning yield? Well, it is because the denominator, if you remember the formula for earnings yield, the denominator is the total enterprise value. The total enterprise value can't really get to negative, right? It can't really get to negative. I mean, because if you think about it, debt is the only thing that's negative there is debt, and debt we add to our denominator. So there's always debt there. The debt's not going to be negative; it's always going to be positive. So, and market share is the largest component, and stocks never go negative. The smallest stock can go to zero. So basically, the denominator never really gets to negative. What gets to negative is the numerator, the operating income. Yes, a lot of companies have negative operating incomes. They're operating at a loss, right? They're operating at a loss. Why? How? Why and how do these companies exist that operate as a negative operating income? Think of your startup companies. Think of your growth stocks, right? Think of Tesla, right? Tesla only recently started making money, and they're not even making that much money. They can still go into red real easily. Think of right now what's going on in the market. Right, the economy shut down. We might be seeing negative operating incomes for some companies, right? So these are companies that are not making operational profit on any level. All right. How do they survive? They survive basically on the capital they raise via the stock raises, and also uh, private equity funds inject cash into the company. They inject cash in the company for more equity. So, um, yeah, these are negative earnings yield. Basically, mean the company's not making money; it's losing money on their operations, right? And again, that is a classic what we call growth stock. That is a stock that investors feel okay. Yeah, they're not making any money yet, but they're going to make money, right? And when they make money, they're going to make big money, right? This is very, very uh, crazy. These stock valuations tend to be crazy. The price value, the volatility of these stocks tend to be crazy, but they tend to pay off big when stocks actually cross over from the negative close to zero and then into the positive region. Then the prices start surging because oh my god, they're making money. All those investors, growth investors, they're vindicated and their models were correct, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of behavioral and momentum, both ways, swings both ways with stocks like this. So anyway, the DF7 is basically the stocks that have the biggest negatives, if you will. Go ahead and take tail. So these ones will be the earnings yield that are negative, and the last 51 and their buy date. Excellent. So I have my DF6 and DF7. Now, from here, guys, what am I going to do? From here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to combine. Here's a new function you guys haven't seen before. All right. So tail and head basically work at like first and last, right? That's good. Is that finite you go with, order you go with. Here's a new function, rbind. What does rbind do? Rbind stands for row bind, okay? And basically what it does is it takes tables and it stacks them up on top of one another to create one big table, right? One big aggregated table, right? So I'm creating a new table called DF8, and I'm doing this only because I want the vectors also basically to align up. And I could have done it like this with DF8, or I could have just taken their ticker values and just stack them up if I wanted to. But this is a great opportunity to show you how to stack up, how to concatenate two tables. So DF8 now is going to be rbind, DF4, DF5, DF6, DF7. Check it out, click on DF8. All right, now we have all these tables, 180 rows, ready to rock. Now, I'm curious to see if I'm gonna run the unique command on those columns and see if any tickers are repeating. If I do df8 $v1 and run it, it looks like I get 154, 155. Actually, just do and row unique. All right, and it looks like I get 157 values back out of 880 rows. So what does that tell me? That there is some repeating of these tickers in the data set. There is some repetition. in the data set, which is good to know because I don't what I don't want to do is now what I'm going to do is just like over here, we ran this for loop in line from lines 34 to lines 40. We ran this big for loop to get these prices, right? We ran it for 3 tickers here. I need to run it for these 180 tickers, but in actuality, it's not 180 tickers. I need to run it for 157 tickers and get their prices. So this is what it was all about. It's about finding all the tickers that I'm going to be using in my strategy, getting those tickers, and now running it through QuantMod. All right, so let's rerun everything we did. All right, let's go ahead, copy this, and rework this. And rework this for our actual lab example. Okay, first thing I want to do is, instead of E1 V1, I'm not even going to do DF8 V1. Why? Because I know I have repeating values. I'm going to go ahead and create a new vector. Let's call this vector tickers, plural, not to confuse it with anything else. And this is going to be, I'm literally going to copy this right here. It's going to be all the unique values in my V1 column in my DFA table. Right, so now this vector tickers is 157 values. Okay, so now what would happen here is if you ran this code, you would probably get an error. All right, let me do this right here. And if you see, I get an error, right? The whole code stopped, I got an error. Cone download failed. Error, cone download failed. For whatever reason, there's a ticker called cone, K-O-N-E, that we can't download any stock price for. Again, it could be a Yahoo Finance error. It could be the fact that this ticker doesn't exist anymore. It probably went out of business. It could be the fact that it got bought out, whatever. And, you know, in actual quantitative analysis or, you know, data science, we would probably explore that and see why that's the case, you know, because it's our strategy. It's something we'd want to, you know, buy, and we would want to know what happened because we then have to go back and see why this failed and, you know, why this actually came up in our quantitative screen in the first place. Like, we're screening these tickers. Why did a ticker that possibly failed came up? So, you know, this is something we want to check into. But obviously, we're just gonna, for our purposes, we're gonna ignore that. But we still have this problem that where we run this for loop, this code, you know, fails. How do we deal with this? So this is now a little more advanced concept in coding. And this is really called, if I go to the next slide, this is called, we need this additional feature, which I'm not going to test you on because this is actually more advanced, a try-catch. A try-catch. And try-catches, they exist in all kinds of coding languages, all kinds. Python, Java, C++, even in R, they exist. And the purposes for these try-catches is so that when you have a scenario like we do right now, where one of the tickers, one or more, a few of the tickers, they do not have data, well, they cause an error. And that error causes our whole code to crash, sort of fail, okay? We don't want that. If there's no ticker data, if there's an error for that particular ticker, we don't want our whole code to just crash. We just want to move on. Say, okay, we accept that there's an error for this ticker, and we just move on to the next tickers. That is what try-catch does, and that is what this funky, if you see my slide 10, that is what this funky syntax is going on here, right? Try-catch basically works like this, right? If I could put it in, let's ignore this. Let's ignore line 70, 72 for now, right now. The syntax for try-catch. All right, and obviously you see the different version. It starts with the try-catch keyword with parentheses. And then within those parentheses, you have two braces, two squiggly braces, comma, comma. The second squiggly set of squiggly braces has this before, error equals function e. All right. Okay, what does that basically mean? What's going on? What's basically happening is whatever is the code in this squiggly brace, that's the code you want the for loop to run, okay? If there's an error, then you want, if there's an error in the code you have running here, so any normal code you want, so line 70 to 72 is what basically would go here, right? The first squiggly brace. Basically, that's whatever you want to have run if everything's normal. If there's an error, what happens is the code doesn't explode like it just happened. The code then passes on to this part right here, and it does something. In our case, we don't really want it to do anything. We just want to move on with our lives, all right? So, just this over right here, right? Do this right here. Okay, perfect. And so within the squiggly braces right here, all I'm going to do is my initial squiggly braces is take the code that I want to run. Right there, all right, right here. That's it, right there, that part, line 69 to 70, okay? And we want this code to run. Now, an additional thing we want to do is, because we're going to go ahead and get rid of this price vector part here, line 70, and we're going to replace it with something else. What happens is, the first time we ran the for loop, everything worked perfectly, so I took that vector price and I added it. Let me scroll back up here, right here. Oh, I deleted it. Unfortunately, I deleted it for some strange reason. Why the heck would I delete it? So I accidentally deleted it, but I added that price. Let me just add it back here. I did this, right? I had the price vector, and I simply said, for all the rows, sell price, colon equals price. I did that. That's basically what the code I had there. I don't know why it's gone. All right. But, and that worked out perfectly because there were 3 rows in E1 and price had 3 prices, right? 1 for each ticker. That, we know now here that's not going to work. We already know there's at least 1 error. There could be possibly more. If that happens, our price vector that I just deleted is going to be 1 less value. The question is, after it's all said and done and runs, which ticker was it that didn't have the price for it, right? We can keep track of that. We can create another vector that keeps track of all the tickers. But why do that when we can directly update the DFA table with the sell price? We can add a sell price directly to the DFA table, right? And every iteration, I simply say, hey, DFA, I want you basically where V1 equals I, the ticker, I want you to create a new column called sell price. And that sell price is going to have the value P. So in line 71, we directly, in the for loop, are updating the DFA table for the ticker I. Wherever V1 equals I, we're updating that price, right? And the first time, sell price won't exist. It doesn't matter. It'll dynamically create it. So now I'm going to go ahead and run this and hope Yahoo Finance doesn't kick us off. See, look, we got the warning there. Cone download failed, VTL download failed, ABH, OPHT, ATTU. So far, oh, ITIS, 1, 2, 3, that's 6 so far. 7, AXCM, VISI, all these warnings right here, they would cause the program to stop running. But because we have the try and catch, it's skipping all these. And there's a lot of them. For some reason, APRI. I'm starting to wonder if I have enough data to run my set. Okay, so it finished, and no, I didn't get kicked out. I got all these warnings. Look at all these ones that didn't work. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 15 tickers. 15 tickers out of 150 something we ran. There was no stock price. There was an error. Okay, you see that? Now, we wouldn't have been able to run this if it weren't for our try catch, because our try catch caught these 15 errors and said, all right, we got these errors, don't blow up, let's just move on, okay? And now I have my DFA table and I have my sell price. Ta-da! Here it is, right? Here it is. If you notice, look at it, cone VTL, there's no price. Or else APHB, there's no price. OPHT, ATTU, ITIS, they're all gone. They're all gone, right? And that's fine. Okay, but for everything else we have a price. And we're going to go ahead and continue our strategy for the tickers where we have the prices. That's, ladies and gentlemen, why we took 15, even though we only needed 10, at max 10 for our strategies. All right, now, going to go backwards. All right, now we have our DF3, we have our ticker of prices, right? We have our DFA table with prices, with the price cell. Now what we want to do is, we want to do one of two things. We want to ticker either a DFA table and take the price cell and bring it back to DF3, or we bring our DF3 and bring it back to DF8. Either way, it's fine. So I'll go ahead and I'll take my DF3, and I'll do a VLOOKUP with the DFA table. So here's my DF3 table, guys. So you have a reference right here, and here's my DFA table. So there's a reference there. All right. Okay. It's all good. So it probably makes more sense, even though in my slides I take my DFA table and bring it back to my DF3. Probably makes more sense to do it to my, just take the buy price from, because I don't need my EYs anymore. I have my strategies. DF8, DF3. Okay, yes. So here I do it to DF8, but in all honesty, for my strategies, I should probably do it to my individual tables I have. It'll probably just be so much easier that way, right? Because here I'm using DF3. So I'm going to diverge from my slides a little bit, guys. In my slides, all right, I'll show you where I diverge in my slides. The first divergence of my slides I'm doing is here in slide 12. In slide 12, I go ahead and I combine the DFA table now has my sell price, which I needed. And I go ahead and I take that and I combine it to my DF3 table. But I don't need to do that to my DF3 table. Why? Because I have DF4, DF5, DF6, and DF7 predefined and ready to go for my strategies. Okay? So, oops. So if I go to DF4 right here, I should really update that in my, really should update that in my slides, but whatever, my DF4 is here. And so I'm going to just go ahead and diverge my slides a little bit, right? And I'll talk you guys through how I diverge my slides, and you guys will have this code. So instead of here, I combine DF3 and I take the returns and all that jazz. I'm going to go ahead and use my DF4 table. Oh, I can't use my DF4 table. Okay. Damn, I wanted to use my DF4 table. Scratch that. I'm going to go ahead and just use my DF3 table. So sad. Let's go to DF3 table. Okay, that's why I did it, because it has my original earnings yield. Because here I don't have, I would have to go back and get my prices, and let me think for a moment. All right, so yeah, so I'm thinking about it. I'm going to go ahead and diverge from the slides a little bit. So here we just go back and we combine back to DF3, but I went through all these trouble creating the DF4. Oops. I went through all this trouble creating the, where are we? Go back up here. All this trouble creating the DF4, DF5, DF6, and DF7 table. Now, we come down here. DF4 is all the tickers from my strategy number 1, right? But, I mean, I don't have the buy price, and I don't have the sell price. So I'm going to have to do 2 joins for each one of the DF4, DF5, DF6, and DF7. I'd rather do that than recreate the, if I see future in my slides, I recreated the conditions all over again when I was doing my strategies. Yeah, I don't need to do that. So I'm going to diverge my slide, and I'll tell you where I diverge my slide in the code. So right now here, In this slide, I'm going to diverge in the sense that I'm not going to take the prices from DF8 and bring them to DF3. I'm going to take the prices from DF8 and bring them to my DF4, DF5, DF6, and DF7 table. And then, because I did that, I need to go ahead and get the buy prices from my DF3 table, and I need to bring them to the DF4, DF5, DF6, and DF7 table as well. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. Run DF8 right there, so I know it's there. All right, so I have date in V1. I have date in V1. Perfect. And again, I'm doing the VLOOKUP thing, so hopefully you guys will get a little better at this, more comfortable at this. So I'm creating the column sell price. I'll name it sell price from DF8. It's going to be on combining which tickers? V1 and V1. Now, I have to do by the V1s, and just to be safe, I have to do it also by the dates. Right? Date, date. Because I could have those for multiple periods. Oh, and it actually shouldn't matter because in V8, the sell price, it doesn't really matter, guys, because the sell price is actually the same, going to be the sell price for each ticker in any period. So I can go ahead and just get rid of the date part here altogether. Because if you remember, we did the sell price for one period in time, the end of May for 2018. So whether we bought it in 2015 or 2017, the sell price is going to be the same. So I just need to combine the ticker and I'm good to go. Boom. Right now, if I type DF4 down here, guys, boom, I have my sell price, but I need my buy price for DF4. So I literally am going to now copy this part here. And now, but the sell price belongs in DF3. So let me see what's going on in DF3 right here. Right, see that price? That's my buy price. I need that. And here now I do need to use the dates because the buy price is date specific. The buy price was for 2015 or 2016 or 2017. So my join will this time will have the added date part. So DF3 buy price, but in DF3 it's called price, and I'm joining on V1, and this time I will be joining on date as well. Date equals date. Ooh. DF3 does not have a V1. DF3 has a ticker. Because it's the one on the right side here, it is corresponding to that one right there. And now, type in DF4 down here. Look what we got here, people. All right, I got my sell price and buy price. All right, now I just need to do it for my, okay, perfect. So I did it for my DF4. I'm ready to do my strategy. So this is my first strategy I'm doing, all right? So let's go ahead and do this. Strategy 1. Now here I'm going to diverge again because in my strategy 1 part here, I'm doing the is finite, all this nonsense. I'm doing the is finite part on return. Actually, yeah, I do need that. So I need to do is finite return because when I calculate return, that's what I'm going to do right now. Remember, it's going back to our first strategy. We already calculated this, but let's just do it again in this setting just to get in rhythm. So I don't need, I want to first calculate the return. Equals, again, you guys know what the formula is at this point. Sell price divided by buy price minus 1. Okay. Look at my sell price. I got some NAs here. Right? So here, guys, that's why here I have this thing going on. Strategy 1. How do I do that? Look at that. That's cool. I do that. Sweet. All right. So I basically, now I'm going to take just the first strategy by date, just like I did before. But now I'm going to have this additional condition saying, listen, the return has to be finite, right? So basically, that's how I filter. That's how I'm going to go ahead and filter all the NAs from here, and we can actually take a look out. And we already know that because we ran this already the first time once when I was showing you guys the basics, that my tickers are there for the beginning of 2015, 2016, and 2017. I already know my answer is going to be, right? But again, let's just work through it. We have the code. I'm just going to copy and paste it from before, right here, right? You can just go back up there if you need to remember. But this time, right, I'm going to put it in a variable called strategy1 equals, and that's what I'm doing right here, guys. I'm doing head return by date. There, this part right here. But instead of head ticker, guys, I'm doing head return by 1. Copy this, put that there. This is BF4 now. And now, it's not, first, I'm going to have a filter saying is.finite on the return. Yes, the return must be a finite number. It cannot be NA. Now, I'm not saying give me, I'm obviously have my group by date, 2015, 2016, 2017. But this time, I'm not taking the ticker. I'm taking the return. Right, I'm not taking the ticker. I'm taking the return. I run this line right here, guys, and strat1 there we go. Strat1 is going to be those same returns as last time. The same returns as last time. And the only difference here is instead of E1, I'm using this one right here. Right? Everything else is the same. Let me go literally copy and paste it. I already have my lab4. My lab4 is good to go. I don't need to even take it. I just need to take the uniroot part. Lab4 is not changing. Right? All that's changing is that part, but that's going to be the same for the first one. So this is all going to be the same. This, what did I do? Lab 4, go back up there. Let's see what FV says. FV says, what? What? Strat 1. All right, I got a slight error here, guys. Let's see what's going on here. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Here I have strat 1 there is no return vector. It's a v1 vector, so I have to make that change right there. And now this will work. Boom. And as you can see, my strategy for this one is 11%. Oops. 11%. All right. 11.4%. Not bad. Not bad. Right? Still below what the strategy was. Our 4-year strategy was in lab 2. But hey, you know what's not bad? In my slides, I actually have a negative 10%, because when I did these slides, I was using a different sell price. I was using a different sell price. So this is why my numbers will be different than my slides here. Right now, I'm doing these numbers right now as of end of 18. All right. So that's strategy 1. All right. We did strategy 1 again. This is the second time, but now we're in a rhythm where we can knock out our strategies. So now I'm going to literally just going to copy and paste for strategy 2. Strategy 2, right? We set up the table was DF5. Let me make that change there, change there, change there, change there. Oh, we can keep that same. We can keep this strange variable there if you want. It's not a big deal. So DF5, boom. DF5, boom. Calculate the return, boom. The return has to be finite, boom. Strategy, boom, 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 boom. Ooh, look at that. So when you had the low earnings yield, the lowest positive earnings yield, it gave you a return of 0.62% compound return for those 3 years. That's pretty bad. 0.62% compound return. In my slides, it was, strategy 2 was 0.026. So, okay, all right. Okay, all right, yeah, so this is worse. This is worse. All right, let's do strategy 3 now. Strategy 3. All right, so this is table DF6, 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 and DF6. You see how much easier it is once you set up once, guys? All right, I'm going to go ahead, just run all this. Oop. Let's see where I got my error here. Strat 1, FV. Let's see what's going on with FV here. All right, FV is 28,000. Ah, okay, look. My final value, let me see what's going on with strat 1 here. All right, we have a big negative over there. All right, big negative over there. I probably messed up everything. So if you look at my final value, guys, a little common sense. We're investing for 3 periods, 11,000 each period. So all in all, I'm investing $33,000. My final value after those 3 years investing is what? Is $28,650. Okay, that's less than $33,000. Common sense tells me that's a negative compound return. Look at my lower bound here, right? Some of you guys get that error. It is because I didn't give a range of numbers that adequately solve that problem, because the answer is a negative compound return. I got a 0 over here, all right? I got a 0 over here. So I'm going to go ahead and give now space for a negative number. Oops. All right, so I'll do negative 0.8, negative 80% to 80%, all right? I'll go ahead and run this, and now I got my answer. And as you can see, now I have a negative compound return, a negative 6.9% compound return. Yikes. All right, negative 6.9% compound return. All right, remember, strategy 3 was negative earnings yield that were close to 0. And as you can see, we got a negative 6.9% return. Okay, all right. And here, I believe, for strategy 3, I got a negative 1 as well. Ooh, negative 15%. All right, look at that. Okay. All right. All right, strategy 4, let's go. That will be DF7. All right, everything else being the same, let's go. All right, and I got what? What does that say, guys? That says a 70% compound return. What? Do you know what strategy 4 is, guys? Strategy 4 was the earnings yield, negative earnings yield, that were the furthest from 0. So basically, the company is losing the most money, and that is a 70% compound return. What? Real quick, let's look at what is in DF7. No, not DF7. Yeah, DF7 right here. Actually, not DF7. I want to see strategy 1. Okay, so here's the problem. You have 2015, you have a negative 73%. You have a negative 23%. But in 2017-06, you have a 750% return? What? That's insane, right? Let me look at my DF7 table again. And let me look at the okay. So I know what my mistake is here. All right. So okay, I know my phrase. For strategy 2 and strategy, guys. Oh, it's pissing me off. Okay, strategy 2 and strategy 4. I made a mistake, slight mistake. I got a little happy. All right. So in strategy 2, remember, what is strategy 2? Strategy 2 is the lowest positive values, right? I already made my filter, but there's 15 values there. There's 15 or 10 portfolios. I did head one, so I'm not necessarily getting the lowest positive value. I'm getting the 10th lowest positive value, if you want to think about it like that, right? So I should really be doing tail right here. So let me rerun this part right here. Again, I apologize just for this guy. So strategy 2, I got to go back. Because remember, strategy 2 was the lowest positive earnings yield, lowest. But if you click on DF5 right here, right, and just for, let's just take one period. Let's just take 2016-06. 2015-06. 2015-06 is, let's do DF5 date equals 2015-06, right? With these 15 values. So what's happening here is, if I do head 1, I'm taking this one right here, okay? Problem is, the way this was sorted, it was sorted so the one with the lowest earnings yield, lowest positive earnings yield, was actually down here. This is going to be NA, so this is going to be kicked out anyway, because in line 88, I'm saying is that finite return. So I should get this instead, right here. I should get this instead. Problem is, because I was doing head 1, I was grabbing this one. So this is a situation for strategy 2 and strategy 4. So strategy 3 is fine. Nobody freak out. But strategy 2 is wrong and strategy 4 is wrong. So all I have to do basically is say, hey, is finite return, that's fine. Tail, return 1. So let me go ahead and rerun this part. I'll rerun this. I'll do my unit root. And here it looks like we have a situation where we have a negative number. 28,000. So I'm going to go ahead and make this a negative 0.8. I'll run this. And I have now a negative value. All right, and now I'll go back and compare that with my, go back to strategy 2. Oh, no, that was a positive. This is negative. Okay, all right, so that's bad. So for strategy 2, okay, that's still bad. We did the lowest positive yield, the lowest positive earnings yield as a screener for picking stocks. Didn't work. Strategy 3 is fine. Go back to strategy 4. Strategy 4, again, I have to do tail, not head, because remember, we want the, that's still a crazy return over there. But anyway, we want the earnings yield that was the negative earnings yield that was the furthest from 0. So tail, we want tail. So I'm going to run this part again. This part. Hold on, let me just see if I did this right. I ran this. Okay, good. I just want to make sure I ran everything. So I'm going to do this, and I get 30. Okay, so I get something more sane here. No, I still don't get something sane. I take that back. I get a 30%, 70% was crazy. But I get a 30% compound return year over year for 3 years. People, okay, why can't I delete this for some reason? Okay, does anybody realize how ridiculous this is? Okay, this right here was a strategy that said, give me the worst earnings yield. All right, I'm going to pick stocks based on the worst earnings yield. And this is where I started taking my DF7. And I wanted to see what's going on here. 10x right here. Let's see, so if I look at strategy 1, I can see what kind of numbers are coming back. Okay, so in 2076, you do have a negative return, but what it is, you have these ridiculous returns in 2015, 2016, 120%, 118% in those 2 years. And yeah, you have a negative 20% in the final year, but you had these crazy returns in those first 2 years, right? We'll talk about that in a sec. So now let's jump into strategy. Why does it keep doing that? All right, now we jump into strategy 5. Now strategy 5, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take this, my strategy 1, because remember, strategy 5, 6, 7, 8 is based off strategy 1, 2, 3, and 4. But the difference is, instead of taking just one stock, we're taking 10 stocks. All right. And now we have to talk a little about all right, strategy 5. All right, so now we're going to have to play a little trick here, guys. Play a little trick here. All right. All right, with 5, we're going to have to place a little jujitsu here in our functions. All right, to understand how we're going to do strategy 5, I need to show you an example of something. All right, so before we jump to strategy 5, let me show you a simple trick we do in let me bust out with my Excel sheet, my trusty Excel sheet. And I want to show you a little trick we guys do when we're dealing with portfolios. All right. Okay. Now, say I had 5 different securities I could invest in, right? And one security, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So I was going to create a portfolio of these 5 securities. All right. I was going to create a portfolio of these 5 securities. Now, let's say that the first security was, I'm going to just buy 1 share of each one, right? The first security was, I bought at 20 bucks. Add a row. All right, so security or the stock and the buy price and the sell price. All right, so let's say I bought it at 20, I sold it at 25. I bought stock 2 at 10, sold it at, oh, I don't know, 20. Sold, bought stock 25, bought it at 30, sold it at 30. And, let's make it just four stocks. And then we had 15, and I sold it at 20. All right. Okay. So, and let's say I had 100 bucks. All right. So let's say I had 100 bucks, and actually let's bring that back. All right. So I had 100 bucks, and I'm creating a portfolio of 5 stocks. I'm going to bring that back. And I bought them all actually at 20 for a total of perfect number of 100. Perfect. All right. 20, 20, 20, 20, 20. Okay. So one was 25, one stayed at 20, one went to 50. All right, let's calm that down a little bit. Let's make that 30. Let's make this 40. And let's make this, I'm trying to use nice simple numbers. I use every number in the book. Fine, I'll make it 25 again. Fine. All right. Okay. Now, when we add up the sell price, right? We add up the sell price times each stock. It's one stock each, right? So my portfolio started at $100. It now got to, right? If I add it all up, my portfolio final value now is what? $140. Okay. So what's the return of my portfolio? What's the return of my portfolio? Ladies and gentlemen, it's still my initial value of my portfolio, which is $100. I'm sorry, it's what my final value of my portfolio is divided by my initial value of the portfolio. It follows the same logic as a buy and sell. So it's literally going to be 140 divided by 100 minus 1, okay? %. It's a 40% return on my portfolio. So, but there's a trick we can use. And this is the trick we're going to use in our portfolios right now for our strategies 5, 6, 7, and 8. We're going to use this a certain trick, all right? And here's the trick, guys. The trick is that we can calculate the individual returns and then take the average of the returns. Why can't we take the average of returns? Because it's an equal weighted portfolio. We had the same percent in this stock, this stock, this stock, this stock, and this stock. Okay, so what's the return here? Return is this divided by the buy price minus 1. Boom. What's the return here? It's 0. Return here, 50%. Return here, well, 100%. Return here, 25%. These are the individual returns. And now, all I need to do is take the, oh, there is no mean in Excel. Take the, stop it, average of these 5 numbers. 40%. You see that trick? That is the trick we're going to do in our example right here. So here, let's start it up. Let's start it up again. Strategy 5. All right. Now I don't have a DF5. I'm going to use a DF4 table again, guys. But here's the change. What's the change? Here's the change. All right. I don't need this, and I don't need this. Okay. And I don't need the returns. I have already calculated returns. I got the prices, I got the returns. I'm simply going to use a DF4 table. But now, instead of taking the head of 1, I'm taking the head of 10. Right? And now, if you look at strategy 1, right? For each date now, it's not going to be 1 stock. Oh, no, no. It's going to be, we still have our filter there, by the way. It's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 for each date. For each date, it's going to be 10. Okay, all right. Now, we can call a function within a function. You see, I am getting the first, these are the returns, right, for all these stocks. But I want the return of the portfolio of those 10 stocks for each date, right? The portfolio return, the portfolio return. So because they're equally weighted, these 10 stocks, and I have the returns, all I need to do now is take the average of those returns. And I can do that right in here. I can call a function within a function. Mean on the head of the return. What's happening? This part right here is calling the first 10 values of return. And then it's passing those 10 values into the mean function, which if we run, and you look at strategy 1 now, you get these now single values. This is the average of the 10 returns in 2015-06, the top ones. This is the average of those returns. And what the hell is going on here, right? This is the average of those returns. Okay? It's the average of those returns. I'm gonna have to look at 2016 and see what the hell is going on there. Why is there that? This is ridiculous. This says that's a ridiculous number. Hold on. There has to be some mistake here. 2000, what was that? Okay. Guys, you know what that's saying? This is saying a return of 1,348%. What? Nah, let's calm down. All right, or basically the stock price grew by 13 times its initial value. All right, so what? No, I want to do that on DFR. This right here. The buy price was $2.36. Apparently at the end of September, and the sell price was $324. Yeah, if you guys want to check that out, see what the hell's going on there. TNXP. This must have been a biotech stock or something ridiculous. Right, we have another one, AMC. But yeah, there you go. 136%. It's all right. So let's go on. Strategy 5, done. Let's move on. We're almost done. We have the mean. Now I have my final value. I have my unit root. And notice I have the F value. Why do I have the F value like that? If we type in F value, FV right here, we have a ridiculous number, $240,000. I invested $33,000 into this investment, into this strategy, and I got $240,000 back. What is what? Right. I'm gonna have to expand this out. So instead of an upper bound of 80%, I have to give an upper bound of like 500%. And now I got my answer. This strategy, guys, which is insane, gave me a return of 139%. All right? 139%. I'm going to tell you right off the bat that you shouldn't have such a success with this strategy because, again, earnings yield doesn't tell us what stocks to buy. Earnings yield just tells us if the stock is a fair price or not. So, all right, okay. Strategy 6. Copy this. Now remember, strategy 6 is the 10 lowest stocks with a positive EY. 10 lowest stocks with a positive EY. I'll keep the mean in there, but this is turning into a tail. All right, I'm not making the same mistake twice. Boom. All right, and now this is not going to be DF4. It's going to be DF5. Tail, strategy 1. Everything else should be the same. Okay, something sensible here. So even using the lowest positive earnings yields, I got a 9% return. All right, nice. Okay, back to head, because now strategy 7, if you remember, is going to be the top Strategy 7 will be the top rows. Sorry, strategy 10 will be it'll be the 10 stocks that have a negative earnings yield that is close to zero. So it's going to be head, right? It's going to be head, and it's going to be the DFX table. Oh, sorry, DF6 table. All right, and now I have a return of 3%. Okay, 3%. All right, not bad. And now we finally get to strategy number 8. Now remember, strategy number 8 is what? Strategy number 8 is going to be the mean of the 10 tickers with the most negative earnings yield. These are the companies that are losing the most money, right? They're losing the most money, right? There's DF7, and everything else should work the same. And look at that. This is something that makes no sense, but it does. And I'll explain in a second. All right. Oops. I don't know why it keeps doing this. My touchpad is going. 67%. Okay, now look. All right. Now clearly, buying 10 stocks at a time was superior to buying one stock at a time, right? And it worked out because it was giving us a chance to buy more, exposing ourselves to other stocks with more opportunities, apparently. Right? Returns are somewhat whatever, but in the last 4 strategies, let me go ahead and scroll down so you guys can see this. Right, the returns right there, 139%. Guys, that is a 139% compound return year over year. Now, look, the reality is for strategy number, this is buying 10 stocks with the highest earnings yield. The reality is I'm going to say we just got lucky in this strategy. And we got lucky because there were some stocks in there that had some ridiculous high earnings yield. And the reason why they had the ridiculous high earnings yield is because their denominator was very little, meaning they didn't have that much, the business didn't have that much, it just didn't cost that much. Their total enterprise value wasn't that much, right? And it was because the stock price was probably really, really cheap, right? Like really, really cheap. So do you find stocks like this from time to time? Sure, absolutely. Where you have a ridiculously high earnings yield and overnight the stock will just pop, right? It'll just pop. Also, factor in that around 2018, the stocks started around when the tax cuts happened. I think that was around 2018, right? So Trump's tax cuts. So the stock market started surging, right? Why it started surging? It started surging because corporations were basically doing what we call, they were taking that extra, with the tax cuts, they had additional money in cash flow, and they were able to bring some cash overseas as well. And when all that cash, what most of these companies really did, some companies they hired a few more people, but really not that much. What most of these companies did was they did what we call stock buybacks. We've talked about this. When a corporation buys back its stocks from the public, right? Remember that each company has a certain amount of shares that are available to the public. When it buys it back, what immediately happens to the stock price? It goes up because there's less shares out there to buy. It's classic supply and demand. So all these companies, they just bought back their shares to push their stock prices higher. Okay, why did they do that? Right? Now I ask you why did they do that? I'll give you a moment to think about it. The answer is because the executives, a lot of the executives and the board members, their pay is tied to stock options. So if the stock price goes up higher and higher, their payouts get higher and higher. In fact, I told you guys before, it's not about salary. These guys actually take less salary and want more stocks or stock options to buy more stocks. Because of that, it creates what we call in economics a rent-seeking behavior, where they basically try to push the stock up for short-term. they tried to make short-term gains in the stock, a lot of times in place of long-term growth, right? Short-term gains on stock value over long-term growth. And by the way, it's funny that we're talking about this right now because what's happening in the market right now? Companies need to be bailed out. Why? They don't have the cash. Why? Because they bought back, they did stock purchase buybacks to push up their stocks, right? And this is why like people like Mark Cuban, like I cannot believe our government's doing this, but people like Mark Cuban is like, look, any company that's getting a loan, any company that's being bailed out, they need to be explicitly state that not a cent is going to go back to stock buybacks. Not 1 cent. That money is going to be used to expand, to keep their employees and keep them on and hire more people. United got bailed out, and they said, listen, for 6 months we're not going to fire anybody, and after 6 months we're going to start firing people. So that's that, people. So that's basically what's going on with strategy 5. Strategy 6, that's more, makes a little more sense, 9.29% return. But still, that's a great compound return for stocks that have the lowest positive earnings yield. And again, that's probably a function of the fact that there was a stock surge going on at this time, right? Which, by the way, is a good time when you want to do a strategy. My mentor, one of my bosses, my trading desk managers, he always used to tell me, "Why? We always want to trade in a rising tide." Right? There's a saying, a rising tide lifts all boats, meaning if you're going to be an active investor, being an active investor in a sector, in an industry that's rising, so that even if you mess up, you still look good. You're still making money. All right? Strategy 7, that was the negatives that were closer to 0. And here we expected to lose money, but again, it's a 3% compound return, but it's still a 3% compound return. Right? A 3% compound return. I mean, that's decent. I mean, it's not bad. It's not good, but it's like, it's like a bond. No, it's not like a bond. It's like a treasury bond from the government. And strategy number 8 is basically saying what? Strategy 8 number saying is something that's also insane. And let's talk about this for a moment. So what's happening with strategy number 8? Strategy number 8 basically is saying, okay, cool. You have 67%, 68% compound return year over year. For earnings yields that were, in terms of operating profit, were the worst, 10 worst companies year over year. 10 worst companies year over year. How could that be possible? What's going on there? It was the most negative earnings yield, meaning the numerator was a big fat negative operating income. What's going on there? Okay? So what's going on here is that the fact that there's bias in the data. Okay? What do I mean by there's bias in the data? Well, like I said before, these companies that have these negative operating incomes, right? They're what we call growth stocks. They're publicly traded companies that are losing money every quarter, but nevertheless, stock investors believe in them. They're dreamer stocks. Tesla is a classic dreamer stock. Yes, it's still making some money, but it was just recently making money, and sometimes it loses money. But it's a textbook dreamer stock because its valuation makes no sense from a fundamental point of view. 0 cents from a fundamental point of view. Okay? So given that this is a dreamer stock, right? And these growth stocks that they're highly negative, okay? Why all of a sudden they have these crazy positive returns? Well, if the stock indeed does turn around, and eventually, if it's a biotech stock, if it's a tech stock, whatever big pie in the sky objective it had, for some way, one way or another, it started making money. And once it starts making money, the overreaction to these stocks that were originally so negative, and then they start inching towards 0, right? From going from negative towards neutral to cash flow neutral, meaning that they're covering their operating expenses. They head towards 0, right? The price just starts rocketing, and then when they go from 0 to positive, forget about it. The behavioral the behavioral reaction to these kind of stocks, those stocks just explode. Again, think Tesla. Think Tesla. It's rocket rise from like $200 to like 700 and even 1,000 at one point, at one day, right? So that's what happens to these stocks. Now, I said this data is biased. If that's the case, aside from the data being biased, if that's the case, then everybody should just find these companies that have the highest, I mean, the biggest negative earnings yield, and just ride them, baby, right? Yeah? No, our data is biased because in our data, what did we do? What were we doing? Here, I'll give you a hint. We go back up to lines 66 and 73. What were we doing here, guys? We were getting prices for stocks, right? And we were using a try-catch to kick out the tickers to where there was no price. There was no price. Why wasn't there a price for some of these stocks, guys? Because they don't exist. Why don't they exist? They could have been bought out, merged, or flat out just gone bankrupt. Okay? That is the inherent bias in our data. We only kept the companies that had massive negative earnings yields that made it. We didn't include the companies that had a negative value, had a massive negative earnings yield, and we didn't make their stock price go to zero. Right? We just kicked them out. We just kicked them out. In fact, if we want to run, let's run strategy 8 again. Right? Let's run strategy 8 again. Let's see if it actually makes a difference. So I have my DF7 table right here. Scroll up a little bit. See, we have some NAs over here, some NAs, some NAs. Sell price, sell price. Let's look at their buy price. $4, that's not bad. All right. 62 cents, that's not bad. So some of these are not going to create, they're not going to create that much, we're not going to get that much of an explosion from some of these guys. See, we still have this one right here, 250 to $20. That creates a massive return. So let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, this still be there. So we still got lucky with some of these ones, right? And so we'll still have a big return. But the point is, even at this point right here, like even at this point right here, right? If you remember, we're getting this from where earnings yield is 0, right? Because if you remember up here, what did I do up here in DF3? What did I do all the way up here, guys? Is finite earnings yield. At even this point, even at this point where we're calculating the earnings yield, there were stocks that didn't have prices. They were down. They created an NA earnings yield because the price didn't exist. At this point right here, all those losers that could possibly sank our portfolio, but those high negative earnings yield, they were gone. The data was biased. The data was biased. If we wanted to do this correctly, if we wanted to do this right and get rid of the bias, we would have to find those tickers, right? Find what happened, and I alluded to this from the beginning. Find out what happened to them. Why is it that we didn't have an EY score? What's missing? What happened to them? And we would have to break down, okay, this got bought out at this price, this happened to this straight up went bankrupt. This straight up went bankrupt, right? So that is how and why we're getting this result right here. We're getting this result right here. Okay? So anyway, this concludes our lab all the way down. This concludes our lab 4. And I think the next lab we want to do is we want to actually look at lab 4 again and then visualize, do a little more visualization, ask a little more questions. Actually, I'm sorry, before we do that, the next video will be, that I owe you guys, is going to be practice set 4. I believe, yes. So we now have practice at 4. I don't know if I post practice at 4. I'll post practice at 4 and I will do the video for that too. I should have actually did the video for that today. It might actually go longer than. Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna do the video for practice at 4. I'm probably not gonna post it in time for tomorrow's class, but start looking at the video for practice at 4 because it'll probably be because we're already I think at 2 hours, but I believe that video will probably be another hour. So I always want to try to cap my videos around 2.5 hours for each class. So it'll probably go more, but um, tomorrow I think I'll probably post that video tomorrow after your class. So I'll put it up on I'll talk to you guys tomorrow about class about it. But so the next video I owe you is going to be on practice at 4. All right, and I want you guys to at least start going to practice at 4. I know it's going to be we're going over the time allotment for the week, but I'll shorten it up for another week. All right, I'll shorten it up for another week. All right, guys. Last lab 4. Check it out tomorrow, and we'll have the Q&A on it. All right. All right. Good night, guys.